Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our 10th Let's Talk About webinar. I'm Siobhan Smith, Diversity and Inclusion Manager and Women in Innovation Programme Lead at KTN. And it's my honour to introduce our host for today's webinar, Meg Zeenat-Wamithi. Meg is an award-winning global mental health leader and consultant. She has worked with large companies like Clifton Chase, Bookings.com, Santander, KPMG, Loan Design Club, and Vox Burner. She's been featured in Dazed magazine, Pride magazine, and on the BBC. Her commitment to changing the world for the better has seen her champion anti-bullying in schools, inclusivity and diversity on university campuses and in the workplace, evolution of school curriculums and mental health services in public policy, as well as championing young people's voices in politics. At the wake of COVID-19, her team built MindMapper UK, the ultimate digital mental health gym for young adults. The platform allows you to tap into the global community of like-minded peers, partner up with your virtual mind buddy, connect with mental health resources, and suit your lifestyle and work towards a mentally healthier life in a way that suits you. Meg is currently finalising her degree in BA in Philosophy, Politics and Economics at King's College London. And alongside our panellists today, Meg will be safely guiding us through the F word. So over to you, Meg.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. That is so much pressure. I don't know about you guys, but when people read your bio, you kind of look at them like, whoa, is that me? But I hope I can live up to those expectations. As Siobhan mentioned, this is episode 10. Can you believe it? Episode 10 already of Let's Talk. And I cannot wait to be having an incredible stripped back conversation with three amazing ladies all about the F word. So without further ado, as much as I love speaking today is not about me talking, it's about these ladies who I'm going to introduce. And first up, we have Angela Smith with a really cool virtual background. I love it. On brand 101. Following obtaining a PhD in cell biology from the University of Manchester, Angela worked in biotechnology SMEs in business development roles before moving to RTC North to deliver the Enterprise Europe Network and later Innovate UK Edge programs. Today, Angela is a team leader for Northwest, and I cannot wait to have her on board. Wave to us, Angela. Next up, we have Sonu Bubna, originally a qualified accountant. Sonu co-founded shopper.com. As you can see by her name, she's got the brand on there. It's a global community of shopping influencers from over 40 different countries around the world. She's been working in e-commerce marketing space for the last 10 years, believe it or not. Yes, she looks very, very young, but 10 years of experience. She's passionate about advocating for women's entrepreneurship, particularly all around tech. Sonu was recently announced as one of the Women in Innovation Award winners today, and we're so happy to have her. Say hello, Sonu. It's so great to see you. And last but not least, we've got Elizabeth Clark, your posh Geordie, she said. She introduced herself as the posh Geordie, but Elizabeth Clark is the CEO and co-founder of an incredible award-winning applied AI company called Dream Agility, specializing in the retail space. Their visual AI is the first of its kind to correct product data from images and has been listed in Forbes, yep, a whole Forbes, as one of the most 29 exciting AI scale-ups in the UK and only one of 200 Google technology partners globally. She's also a multi-award winning entrepreneur and is an accomplished international speaker and author. Welcome, ladies. I am so excited to be here with you guys today. And as you will know from the title, today's all about talking about the F word, and the F word today is failure. I'm going to give you guys a bit of some context around this word. So our Women in Innovations program is all around uncovering some of the behind the scenes and truths about being an entrepreneur, a female leader in this space, and also building ventures from idea stage all the way from scale up all the way to FTSE 500, whatever you name it. It's all about actually uncovering the truths. And part of the truths is that failure is normal. And I think this is something that all four of us wanted to come across with you guys, which is failure is normal, but also that it's necessary. And I don't want to say this because I was stubborn at the get-go when I first started my company, but I thought failure is the worst thing that can happen because it means that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing and you should give up. But what we want to try and come across today is that failure is necessary. And just because you failed once doesn't mean that your whole company or idea is failure, and actually that you're one step closer to finding out the solution that works for you. So today I want you all to think more scientifically and believe that you are a scientist. The more we start to think as scientists, the better we actually become as entrepreneurs, because scientists fail all the time, and some of their biggest failures have actually led to some of the biggest vaccines and prescriptions that we have today. So I want you to focus on testing more than assuming that failure is it. And as we're on to that word, I want to open the floor up to our amazing panelists. And the first question I want to kind of touch on is, what does failure mean to you? Elizabeth, I want to start with you. And I want to ask you, just kind of throughout your life and, transitioning into becoming a CEO and co-founder, what has failure kind of meant to you?
It's opportunity, really. As one door closes, another one opens. I left a technology transfer company, years. I was 32 and I'm 51 now. And back then I thought, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I thought, well, what have I learned while I'm here? And we'd grown a massive team. We'd gone global. We'd raised 50 million quid. We'd made FTSE 250. And I learned a lot about teams during that. So I thought, well, I was being rejected because I had two small children. So I was applying for sort of senior jobs, and they basically said, you can't tell anyone you have children. So, well, I've got a nanny, and because there was no sort of childcare back then, there was no nurseries and things like that. I couldn't go to nursery till they were 2.5. And they said, just don't mention your children. Don't mention. I said, I've never had a day off where I've had to look after the children. They're looked after. So I took that as an opportunity. So, well, that's the end of my career in HR. I'll do something else. So I became a flirting expert. I used all my skills from presenting and negotiating and everything else and bundled it up and became a flirting expert. I did that for 10 years, getting paid thousands of pounds to speak to bankers about, handshake etiquette, kissing etiquette, breast etiquette, things like that. Wiley contacted me and said, would you write Flirting for Dummies for us? And I said, yeah, okay, all right. Still get the royalties now. So I think, just because something isn't going your way and you clattered into something, it's an opportunity to either fix it or just do something different and never look back.
Love that. Fix it or do something different. So it's like redirection. It doesn't mean you have to stop completely. It's about redirecting and finding a new route. Almost like when you're driving a car and you get lost, you don't just go, do you know what? Forget this, I'm going to go home. You sit down and you think, what is the sat nav trying to tell me? Like, I need to go. Do you remember back in the day when it was maps, you had to stop at the side of the road? Now we have, it's just kind of redirection. So I just love that, what you said in terms of, you heard the no, you heard the rejection, you heard the idea that actually some things that are inherent to you would be that you failed. But you said, you know what, I'm going to do the best out of what I've got and I'm going to show them. And I really love that kind of persistenceness coming from you. Angela, I want to come to you because I think your experience going from different avenues would be really interesting to know. What does failure mean to you?
To me, failure is really the best way of learning. It's a tough way of learning, but it is the best way of improving, getting more skills, getting better. A little bit of a story, but to be honest, my career so far has been a bit of a story of failure, if I can put it that way. Writing up my PhD, after 3 years in the lab, I get a phone call from my supervisor and I go, oh, hi, how are you doing? Well, I was all right until I read your thesis. Those were his exact words. I did not have the skills for writing then. So I had to go back to square one, start writing again. And that, although it was a few minutes of absolute crushing, stomach dropping out of your boots, but I got better. My writing got better and I got my PhD. So, scroll forward a little bit of time and I'm working for an SME biotech spin-out, and we were putting a grant application together. And at exactly the same time, the license deal that we had that would have secured the future of the company fell through, as in overnight vanished. So this grant application suddenly went from, this is going to be a really nice bit of business development, the next step for the company, to we really need to get this. Now, the skills that I developed from my PhD writing meant that I could write this grant application, which is perhaps as well because my job was literally riding on it. We were successful, we got awarded the grant. Now I take what we learned from that and what we learned from the grants that we didn't get awarded, and I now use that today in my work under Innovate UK Edge, helping other SMEs to go through that grant writing process, to learn how to use it, how to approach it, and to not be scared of, okay, you may not get it this time round, but you will get the feedback. You will know how to improve. You can do it better next time, and next time you'll get it.
I really like that.
So, yeah.
Especially what you said around learning from the grants that you didn't get. I think so often we don't actually reflect on some of those no's, and to acknowledge that maybe there's some responsibility in the fact that you might just not have been good enough, or it wasn't the right time. And it sucks to say that as an entrepreneur, and I bet all of us are cringing a bit remembering the first time that we realized it's a bit too early to be thinking that way. And I just, thank you so much for your honesty. And Sonu, I think particularly around tech and building products, failure is inevitable. So I kind of want to know from your aspect, and I think especially because you've worked in the global sphere, what does failure mean to you?
I think failure is quite an interesting concept that way, because it is a chance for you to revise your strategies that haven't really worked. And I think as a society, we always put a lot of pressure on us that we need to succeed at the first attempt. And I don't think so that's really the pressure anybody needs to go through, because you don't have to succeed at first attempt. You just need to succeed at whatever attempts or the number of times it takes for you to get there where you wish to go. Because personally, I don't think so it's the most talented ones who become successful. I think it's the most relentless ones who become the successful. And this is where I like to focus more of my energy on, because you can imagine I'm an accountant turned tech entrepreneur. So that in itself is a story, like, probably I have left the comfort zone of being an accountant and then starting the business in tech industry. And also I'm from Asia, where a lot of women by default or inherently face a lot of apprehensions and skepticism from the world around. So I think this is where we have more of so I think this is where I'm always prepared for that failure, where people are going to question me, they're going to doubt me, they would want to probably not believe in me, and you just be relentless about it.
I like that, relentless. It seems like something, I want to ask something for you all. It seems like you all inherently had kind of confidence within yourselves, and you mentioned kind of relentless. I just wanted to ask you, in terms of your own characters and your personalities, what do you feel like has really helped you battle or combat some of those failures or setbacks? Elizabeth?
I'm a bit of a stoic. My husband always complains I just keep going and going and going and going. When I've got my children are 26, 24 and 8. And when I found out I was pregnant with the 8-year-old, I was devastated. Well, delighted and devastated. I just signed a contract for £250,000. It was something that I'd really wanted, and I got it, and then I just wanted to give it back, because I thought, oh my God, the contract was due for delivery on Christmas Eve and the baby was due to be born on Christmas Day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the timing was terrible. The developer I was working with was a psychopath. And he said to me, you're just all funny because of your hormones. I said, this has nothing to do with hormones. I would kill you if I get my hands on you. And we had a really rough ride with that. But when the baby was born, we got everything out on time. We got clients in Australia, and I saw breastfeeding as an opportunity to be able to work through the night. So I'd have the baby on one side and my iPad on the other, or laptop. It does make a lot of light, to be fair. But I just keep going and keep going and keep going, because if you take everything, if you want to eat an elephant, you eat it a bite at a time. So it's just kicking the can down the road a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and you'll get there in the end. It's just that whole, like I say, persistence. And stoic about it.
AKA stubbornness.
Yeah. Keeping on and keeping on and keeping on and keeping on and keeping on. And eventually something breaks.
Oh, I love that. And Angela, for you, because obviously hearing someone come in and just say, yeah, your PhD, your thesis doesn't make sense. What was that thing that kept you going?
I think it's that, okay, you blow your top for a couple of minutes and then you calm down. And then I think it's that having that clarity to look at it and go, do you know what? You're right. I can do better than this. And it's that acknowledgement of, yeah, I need to put a lot more work into this. I need to learn a lot more. But it's that knowing that I can do this better. And I will do this better. And I say I agree with Elizabeth, there is a lot of stubbornness involved there in that, I am not going to let this lie. This is not going to be the end. I'm not going to put 3 years in and then fall at this hurdle.
Yeah.
There is that certain amount of terrier-like stubbornness. But again, it's that almost that sort of almost Zen-like, no, you are right. This can be improved and this is how we shall do it.
I like that. I love that. You said your terrier kind of stubbornness. I love that. And I can just imagine like being so close to something and going, I'm still so close. I can literally touch it. Like it doesn't make sense to kind of give up now. And I just, yeah, I can resonate with that so much. Sonu, for you as well, like thinking about yourself, your personality and your characteristics, like what do you think has helped you the most?
I would say the ability to move on quite fast, because often when the setbacks come or you make mistakes or you think that you are failing on different fronts, it's the ability where you should be able to move on quickly. Because sometimes what happens, we are so engrossed in moaning about what's happened, or we are so low, we spend days and weeks in being depressed. And at that time, we might lose a lot of the other opportunities that were just passing by. So I think that whenever a setback happens or a failure happens, you reflect on it, you learn from it, but you very quickly move on from it. You don't really hold on to as if it was you who failed, because actually it's the event or it's the approach at which you would have failed, but it's not you as an individual. And I think this is where a lot of moving on happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in my own personal journey, something that I recognize is, especially at the very beginning, your company and your brand feels like you as well. It's hard to separate you, your personality and your identity and your company's identity. So sometimes when you hear the no's, it almost feels like they're saying no to you. And I don't know if you've been there before, but when someone's like criticizing something or saying that something doesn't work, you're like, what, you're saying that I'm not working? You're saying that I'm not the person doing it? And it can be very, very difficult to kind of remove and separate those two things. I think you said something really, really good, which is don't take it personally. And I know that's easier said than done, but acknowledging that it's not about you. And if your company's failed, it doesn't mean that you failed. And if you're not doing so well, it doesn't mean that the company's failed. And just being able to understand that, there are setbacks and there's complete failure. I think, the same way that I think, especially for me, from a mental health background, we've got like obviously the spectrum of like good mental health, bad mental health, and all the stuff in between. That's the same with failure. You have full blown failure and you've just got a bit of hiccups and, wobbles down the road. And I think something that you all have been able to say is that, there are setbacks, but being able to adapt to them is really important. And I guess one thing that I wanted to ask you all now is thinking about these last few years and some of those big failures, what has been the best personal outcome for you? Heavy question. What has been the best possible outcome? I'm actually going to go backwards and I'm going to start with you, Angela.
Okay. I think for me, the best personal outcome is I'm so fortunate in my role now to be able to work with a lot of small companies who are kind of where I was sort of 6, 7, 8 years ago. So taking them through that journey and going, look, I've been where you are. This is how you can approach it. This is how things are going to work. This is what will work better for you, potentially. And guiding them through that process, because it does take, failure is a great way of learning. It also takes a lifetime to learn from your own mistakes. Please learn from other people's, learn from mine, learn from those of my colleagues, because we've made mistakes. We've been there, done that, failed, picked ourselves up, got the t-shirt. So it's just so nice to be able to use that experience to help other people. So they're doing things better. Then they may still face the setbacks. We are working in the world of innovation. Setback is a reality of the world we work in.
Mm-hmm.
But they progress that bit faster, that bit better. They'll be able to help other people in the future. They'll get better, they'll get faster, and so it pays forwards.
Time, I like that. And Sonu?
I think it has made me a better person, and it has taught me a lot about life and how I can deal with things differently or in a better way. Because sometimes when you are failing a lot of times in a series, like, you just learn to be, it teaches you a lot of humility, I would say. So from the corporate success that I had when I jumped into the entrepreneurship, it wasn't really the status quo. It was rather like, I was nose diving. And at that time, it was quite interesting because I was failing on multiple levels, So I was failing as a leader, I was failing as a team member, I was failing as a citizen perhaps, or I was failing as a daughter, or maybe as a girlfriend. I don't know, in different capacities I was failing at that time. So that is where I felt that I became a better person, a lot stronger person. And it taught me how to deal with things better, how to stay calm on the face of a storm. So you just have you can control your nerves, and then you can respond to the situation in a way better way.
Thank you so much for that. And Elizabeth?
Yeah, well, we've had some little hiccups along the way, and we've had some absolutely massive ones, and sometimes the ones that you weren't expecting, that weren't your fault, you can feel very unfair. So we ended up in a situation where we were the fastest growing Google Premier partner in the UK. We're one of only 200 Google technology partners in the world. Google had taken us everywhere, but not managed to mention to us on any of those occasions that they were going to release a thing called CSS. The first thing I ever heard about CSS was when my clients were ringing me up and saying, should we move on to CSS? Which I had to then Google, what is CSS? I'm like, oh my God, it's a Google thing. How could they do this to me? Completely, I mean, it's bad enough if you've screwed something up and you failed, but when you've done nothing wrong, and something just hits you from the side, it can seem like it's very unfair. It was very unfair, but we just had to sort of suck it up and get on. We ended up putting a company into administration, which isn't as easy as it sounds. In fact, it's terrifying because anybody could buy your business. It hit our whole industry really hard. Marin's share price plummeted. Everyone's share prices plummeted. Obviously not mine, some listed, but managed to actually buy the company. And it was terrifying because I thought 20 people rely on me for their income. And, my husband works in the business. My two eldest children work in the business. Like, my entire family is going to be on the streets. This is awful. Nothing I've done wrong. We had a really toxic relationship with our investor. But actually coming out of that, we no longer had an investor. We bought the company back. We own the company. We're paddling our own canoe. We're doing great. And I just, every day above ground is a good day. So if you're not dead, it's not a problem. And I think you can pretty much overcome everything if you just sort of put your shoulder to the wheel and just crack on with it. So death is the only thing that will defeat me. What I've got.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that stubbornness to the level. I absolutely love that. You are gonna blood, sweat and tears all day, every day. And I really, really like that. And I think something that I really want us to recognize is we are all really comfortable talking about failure, but that's why we've kind of titled today's kind of talk the F word, because not everyone is, right? It is something that is incredibly stigmatized. It's something that doesn't seem to kind of fit. And especially without this series, we've kind of spoken about how everyone has their own unique pathway. So everyone, all of us are entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, co-founders, all of that, you name it, but we would have all experienced different journeys. Why do you all think that we don't talk about failure enough? Why does it seem like the taboo in the entrepreneurship innovation space? I'm going to start with you, Sonu.
I think because we have so many success stories out there, or actually only the success stories are something that come out in the media as much, and not really these stories where people have failed or they have experienced the setback. I think that is one of the reasons why we don't really normalize failure or setbacks. We think that, okay, if you're not getting something at the first attempt, that means you're not good enough, and you may not probably be able to reach where you wish to be. And nobody really wants to talk about that negative side of it, but we have made it negative is what I feel, because failure is quite a normal part and parcel of reaching or being successful. You don't really become successful unless and until you have failed at multiple times. So I feel that I wouldn't fail if I was doing what everybody else was doing. I'm failing because I'm trying something new, something different that probably others haven't tried. So if you like to be a part of the herd, then maybe yes, you can just continue doing what you want to do. But when you try something different, you don't have as many people who will be crazy that way, like, who want to do something different. And that's where most of the people don't really talk about it, because we think that any negative connotation you as a person can have is a bad thing for your reputation. And it's not really that way. I feel the more you are able to let the younger generation or your fellow entrepreneurs or fellow friends know that it is okay to fail, and failure is just temporary, right? Because today you might consider what you have not achieved as a failure, but tomorrow when you achieve it, it is a success story. So what yesterday appeared like a failure is today actually a success. And that is what we need to bring into the picture or the spectrum when we talk about failure.
Wow. I think what you said there, which was so important, which is around the media, already the community, like we often don't talk about a lot of the organizations that have failed, like even some of the, unicorn organizations and the big entrepreneurs that we think about, the Bill Gates, the, why can't I think of anyone right now except from Bill Gates, the Elon Musk, etc., etc. They failed so many times. Like, how many things have come on the market and just simply disappeared, and none of us actually stopped to be like, that was actually a failure, that flopped, or that didn't work. Or for instance, a lot of them had started companies before the Amazons and the Microsofts existed, and they failed at them too. But we often kind of miss that. And I think you're absolutely right in terms of like, we concentrate maybe too much on those success stories than actually the whole process. People only see the destination, they never really see the journey. So I'm hoping today, like, we can unpack that. And I guess, Elizabeth, for you, especially because you've worked in lots of different spaces, what is your kind of perception of why we don't talk about failure?
I think it's sort of, people think it's embarrassing. My dad worked in the oil industry, and the Americans are all about just sack people. And the minute you sack someone else is going to snap them up, which doesn't happen in the UK. And certainly when we went into administration, I thought, it had all happened, it had passed. All we had to do was tell the clients. Next thing I know, the phone's ringing, it's the press. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want anybody to know. How have they found out? Apparently when you go into an administration, it goes into a thing called the London Gazette. So they all had it. And I didn't want to speak to her, and I thought, what are they going to write? Are they going to write terrible things about me? What are they going to do? So I spoke to Chris Maguire at Business Cloud, and he's done loads of articles actually on people whose businesses have failed. And he tries to get both sides of the story, tries to get your version of events and your investors or your partners or who else. So he tries to do it in a very balanced way. But actually it was quite cathartic talking to him about it. And I really liked the article he wrote. And I got so much positive feedback from that. I had no idea that everyone, people in big companies saying to me, I'm really sorry to hear about that, Elizabeth, but you're doing a great job. You've got great technology. You're a lovely person. And it was brilliant. And I wouldn't have got that if I hadn't have done the press pieces. And we shouldn't be embarrassed about failing. I always got good grades at school. I did great at everything. So I was stood there going, this is the biggest failure of my life. I'm rescuing it, but it's the biggest failure of my life. But that was completely turned once you start seeing it from other people's perspectives. Another perspective on things is very enlightening, and it's good for the soul. So, don't share it, problem shared and all that. And even if everyone thought I was a complete, what's another word for shitbag? At least I would have known, and I could have done something about it. But it was just so nice to get such positive feedback. It made me feel a lot better, and it made everything a lot easier. So I think we have got a funny attitude or a funny relationship. Most people have a funny relationship with failure, but I think when you fail big and fail hard, and you know what that feels like, it's not going to get any worse. It's just have to crack on with it.
Oh God, that is hilarious. And just, absolutely. I think that word embarrassed is a good one, because you almost want to like put a blanket over yourself and crawl into a hall and hope that no one knew what happened. And I guess for you, Angela, like, what is your perspective? I think being in the educational space where, you know, grades and what you achieve and being successful is a big thing. What's your perspective?
I think the problem is we regard it in such a binary way. It is success or it is failure. And that just isn't the case. I mean, I was saying earlier that there was a hoo-ha a few years ago about the term failure not being used at schools. You know, when you failed your exams, it was deferred success, not failure. And there was so much sniffiness about that. And they're going, no, that is exactly what it is. You know, you failed now, but that's not the end of it. It's not, you failed, oh, that's it, everything's turned to mush and I'll never succeed and nothing will ever happen. It is not that. Failure is deferred success. It is, okay, this didn't work, but I shall do it this way. Try that. That works. I'll do more of that. I'll do that better. And then you get your success. I think we need to stop that binary thinking of it's success, it's failure. You win, you lose. I mean, bringing up a point that Sonny raised earlier, it reminded me of the phrase, you know, a lot of work has gone into being an overnight success.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of mentality of, no, things aren't working now, but they will do.
No, I think that's so important. And I've got kind of a few questions that are coming in from the audience. One that Rachel has asked, which is, do you think that women fear the failure or failure more than men?
To be honest, I think women do, or they sort of, whether men are better at hiding it, I don't know, whether they brazen it out. But I think women are a little bit, we're back to this embarrassment and, oh no, I failed. And I think women do tend to feel that a bit more acutely than perhaps men do. I mean, I'd have to ask a bloke, sort of, when you completely cocked up, how did that work? In fact, we use that as an interview question. Tell me of a time when you failed miserably, because it's not about the failure, it's how you handled it.
Wow.
But yeah. I do think women are perhaps a bit more inhibited about failure and not sort of, yes, that didn't work, but that's fine because I shall do it this way. I know how that didn't work. I mean, Thomas Edison, I haven't failed. I've just found a load of ways in which this doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, Sonny, you mentioned obviously you're from a different kind of culture and background where, you know, women are starting to get to leveling the playing field, like it's still quite fresh and new. And I guess from your perspective, especially as an Asian woman, like, why do you think women are more worried at failing than our male counterparts?
I think it's all about, the stakes are quite high for women. So, for example, when I came to the UK, I was probably the only women child in my family who had ever stepped out of the country for education. And that had put a lot of pressure on my parents as well. So if I was not to become a success in UK, I would have really let my parents down. And here, when I came to UK, I launched shopper.com and the previous startups. And if I don't succeed as an entrepreneur, I would be failing a lot other people who really believed in me. And I think this is where the stakes for women are quite high, or women take these things quite seriously. And like Angela said, maybe they are good at masking, like men are good at masking and women probably aren't that good. It could be that as well, yes, because we tend to be honest with our expression. So if we feel something, we just say it aloud. We don't really think that, okay, no, I shouldn't talk like that, or I should only sugarcoat everything and just portray myself as the strongest person on the planet. So I think one thing is definitely about stakes being high, and that is where women tend to worry more.
Yeah, definitely. And Elizabeth, I really want to ask you a question, because I have a feeling your industry is very dominated by men, and especially when you first started was incredibly dominated by men. My question for you is, did you feel pressure to succeed because you were one of the very few women? Like, there were, like Sonu said, the stakes were so high that it wasn't just about you, it was about all the other women that could be watching you. Did you, at any point, did you put any pressure on yourself or feel pressured by other people that failure was not an option?
I don't think I felt it because of my gender. I just kind of felt it generally. I mean, when you talk about, men failing and not really talking about it. A man will go and play a round of golf having never picked up a golf club before. A woman will never go and play a round of golf having not picked up a golf club before. We have completely different psyches. And, although my world is very male dominated, but I found I'm quite tall, and with heels on, I'm even taller. So I use my sort of size and my presence in a room you've got to work everything you've got, haven't you? I use my size and my presence in the room basically to front up to everybody, and not feel like I'm being looked down on or belittled or anything. There are some of the VCs were very fun raising money when we first raised money, especially for tech. Everyone, for the high net worths, were all, well, I only want to invest in things I understand. Well, you'll be waiting a long time, love. So the whole tech sector has really come on in terms of what people are prepared to invest in. And, they did sort of look at me and think, well, there's a woman with 3 children, and, will we ever see our money again? And it worked out absolutely fine. But to be honest, I didn't really think about other women when I was doing it. I just wanted to crack on and do something. That answers your question really badly.
No, it does. I think the fact that I think it's important, because obviously there are some women, particularly I think for myself as like a Black women founder, I saw like an article which was saying about the fact that we shouldn't have to identify as women founders, female founders. We're just founders. Like, you never see a man go, I'm a male founder. And I think it was just important for us to kind of articulate like maybe some of the barriers that can contribute to this pressure that you may feel. And I know we've spoken about maybe the importance for ourselves and individuals, but like, why do you think failure is important for businesses and within innovation? Like, what is the real importance? And I think I'm going to start with you, Angela. Like, what is the importance?
Well, one of the things I always say is embrace risk. If it's not risky, it's not innovative. And having risk means there is always the chance of failure. If we go back to a really high-end piece of technology, the Wright brothers and the first aircraft, that was the worst plane ever. It went, 2-3 feet? It was lousy, but it was the first. Was that failure? No, it was the first step. It is innovation. If you work in the innovation space, you're dealing with risk all the time, and not just technical risk. You're dealing with commercial risk, operational risk. It's all good. High risk means high reward. We talked about the companies that succeeded. Yes, they built on a lot of failure beforehand. People forget that bit. They forget failure. They don't care. They care about success. When you succeed, people will automatically forget all the stuff that went before because they don't care about that anymore. They will remember the success.
I like that. And for you, Elizabeth, what is the importance?
It just keeps you on track. I even like listening about it. So there's a couple of podcasts on Audible. The guy that started Moz, he has a fascinating story, bombed big style and came back again. And I feel very lucky when I listen to things like that. I kind of think, I'm there, I've done that, I'm still here. And they've also got a series of the free things on if you're an Audible member, of people who have failed and then managed to turn it around into something completely different. And I think you've got to keep yourself in that zone all the time, listening to other people's stories, identifying with other things that happen to other people and saying, they came out of it, there's no reason why I can't come out of it. And it stops you being frightened to do things. You should never be afraid to do something. That whole thing. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? You've got to approach everything kind of like that. I am financially risk averse. I hate anything to do with finance, but I think that's something that women have. A man will go out, he'll get 25 credit cards and he'll put 10 grand on all of them. Woman will never do that. Never in a million years. I wish I could be more financially risk, taking. I can't bring myself to it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I am a calculated risk taker. As much as I think I'm really daring, it will be in the back of my mind, probably 7 steps ahead. Like, is this really gonna work? So yeah, absolutely. I wish I could just go and be like, show what, I'm gonna put 10 grand on this and I don't mind, like, because the rewards are gonna be so much better. But I think, yeah, I think that's actually a really good thing that women have, especially to make them leaders, which is like, let's be a little bit more strategic and think about these outcomes. So I think, and identifying your strengths is really, really important. And for you, Sonu, especially with your company, why is failure so important? Like, e-commerce exists everywhere, right? It's a thing, particularly during lockdown, coronavirus. It's basically the only way we could really shop. Why has failure been so important in your industry?
I think it's very important because then we are able to fix the holes we have. So if you are always succeeding or if you're always successful, you don't know what could go wrong. And when failure happens, that's exactly when you know what could go wrong. So it could be a failure to do with strategy, that you strategized a wrong thing, and then you're bound to fail. Or it could be a failure of execution where you had the right strategy, the right approach, but you didn't execute it well. Or it could be a failure to do with planning. So you planned so horribly that whatever you could do, you're not going to succeed. And I think these are very important stepping stone to become hugely successful. And the sooner you fail, the better it is, because you have more time, more opportunities, and more willpower, I would say, to just keep changing the things or fix the things that have really gone wrong. So I think failure is extremely important because it lets you understand what could go wrong. And that is more important than to know what has gone right.
To know what's gone wrong is more important to know than what's gone right. I love that. This is going to be a different sort of question. It's still related to failure, but I think it's just around the conversations I've been having with kind of scale ups and, having to pivot the company. And I guess my question for you is, as much as it's important to be kind of stubborn, to be resilient in companies, is ultimately there can be a time to give up. And I've got 2 questions for you all. When do you know that, it's not just, a setback? When do you know that you should now give up? And the problem, the solution, it's just not working, and it's time to hang up your shoes, it's time to hang up everything. And also, what is the one thing that would make you all stop as well? So I'm going to start with you, Elizabeth. When do you know it's time, and when would you personally hang up your shoes?
I would hang up my shoes if one of my children or my husband became terminally ill. I think your family comes first, so that would stop me. When would I hang up my shoes? At the moment, I'm busy planning my exit. We've had a few approaches with regards to sale. I'm not ready to sell at the moment, but I'm getting those building blocks in place so that that will be me. I'll never hang up my shoes. Never. I will always do something. But I'm planning for the future. And when you've got your eye on something, because the thing is, you've got to have a number. You've got to have a number. One of my clients says to me, "What's your number?" I said, "No idea." I said, "What's your number? What's your number to leave? What number can actually keep you in the manner you want to be kept for the rest of your days?" I worked it out, and it's actually not very big. And I thought, why am I doing all this for a not very big number? This is the risk reward thing. So I have that number in my mind now. So I know that's my lowest point that I will go to and still be satisfied for the rest of my life. And anything more than that, it's just bumps. It's just bumps. So in terms of, I'll never stop, but I am planning an exit. You've got to have an eye on, how do you get out of something? I see so many entrepreneurs get into something and then they take on a load of investment, and then they have to take on more investment to pay. And then before you know it, especially in lockdown, I saw good companies go bang, or good leaders of good companies have to leave. And I thought, the effort they've put in to get to where they are, again, something completely unfair, something they would never have planned for, COVID-19. It's ruined everything for them. So that's what, at the time we were making a 6-figure profit, and I was like, oh, we're making a 6-figure profit, but I've not raised millions of pounds. What's the matter with me? Why am I? And then of course, when everyone's, the little house of cards all started falling down, like, thank God I've not raised millions of pounds. This is good. Now I'm sort of thinking one step ahead, thinking about the exit. How am I going to get out? So when I am having a bad day, I've got my little exit plan. Oh, what have I not ticked off on here? It just keeps me focused. And like I say, if everything does go, if my family get ill, that's the end of the world for me. But other than that, it's the exit.
Cool. I really like that. So like for anyone watching that's kind of struggling to understand, it's part of kind of owning and managing your failure is about having clear vision. I think that's probably something that's probably helping you, Elizabeth, knowing that actually this is the exit strategy and these bumps along the way are important because I now know how I can get even closer to this exit strategy. So that kind of keeps you on track. And I really love that. For you, Angela, is that something that kind of works for you too? Like, again, when you think about giving up, what are some of the factors that would cause someone to give up? Not failure as such, but part of failure.
I think what it comes down to is, for me personally, in the role I am now, when it stops being fun, when it stops being enjoyable, when it starts to really feel like work, and when I stop being able to contribute to it, that's when it's time to stop and look for something else. It's that, because if you're not personally fulfilled, you're not giving to the role. And when you're not giving to the role, then it really is time to go, okay, this isn't working out for anybody. It's time to look for the what next. What's the next stage? I think in terms of companies and going, right, when do I call it quits? That's a really hard one because, as I say, I'm naturally a bit of a terrier, so I probably don't know when to quit. But as I say, when you've tried everything and it's still not working, and I don't think it's so much it's failed, I need to quit. It's more right, let's stop, let's redo from start. Something has gone fundamentally wrong. It's time to stop, go right back to the basics, blank slate, let's start again.
Thank you so much, Angela. That's amazing. And I think you all have so much grit about you. Sonu, for you, especially in the tech space as well, yeah, when would you hang up your shoes, and like what are some of the factors that can cause people to quit?
I think there could be multiple levels or multiple factors that could make you quit. But for me personally, it is like when I stop achieving what I had set myself onto. So, for example, in my previous startup, we thought that it will have like the startup growth, a hockey stick curve. But when we stopped having that sort of growth, it became more of a lifestyle business. That's when I knew that it is not what I had set my foot on, or that is not the path I want to really walk on. And that is where I called it quits. I said, okay, I want to do something more exciting, something more thrilling, something that will put me under a lot of more pressure than what I'm going through now. And that is where I thought that I want to start something else. And that has happened time and again with me, because even when I quit my corporate career, it was for that reason, where I actually thought that it was becoming quite mundane. I wasn't really enjoying, like what Angela was saying, that when it stops becoming fun, or when you think that you're not achieving what you had originally thought you would achieve with it, that's when I think I would call quits.
When you're not having fun, when you're not achieving what you thought you would. Great advice, guys. Great advice. I've got a question that's come through, which is, do you have any advice for someone who has just started a business? I think this is a really good point. Angela, you said about people can learn from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that you do in your job. So I'm going to come straight to you. But yeah, someone's just started a business. Someone's just kind of got their business plan going. What is your advice?
My advice is talk to as many people as possible. As I say, it takes a lifetime to learn from your own mistakes, learn from other people's. They will be quite open about what worked, what didn't. There's a lot of peer-to-peer networking and structures out there. Do use it. Use business support. There's a lot of stuff out there that's available through the growth hubs, through the LEP, through Innovate UK, through people like Innovate UK Edge, the KTN, the Catapults. There's all sorts of organizations out there. Tap into all of it. It's there to be used. We want you to succeed. We want you to grow and scale and do all that great stuff. We will help you do that. We can help you if you're going to fail fast, fail early, fail better.
Yeah.
Do make use of everything that is out there. It is there to help support you. And say, we've been through the mill, we've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, we've got the scars. So we'll help you through it all.
Amazing. Learn from other people's mistakes. I think that is amazing, and like kind of find mentors in your space that have gone through what you've done and understand your industry. Sonu, what would your advice be?
I would say two things. So one, I'll say that be open to learning, be open to feedback, be open to criticism, because that is where you will learn a lot more about your business, your product, your idea, or your execution plan. So a lot of people may have positive or negative comments about what you're doing and whether you can achieve what you think you can achieve. So it's important to be open to what people say, but at the same time, don't let the self-doubt come in. So just because someone else said that, okay, you're not ambitious enough or you cannot reach 100 million ARR in 5 years, you don't have to really let you down because someone else has an opinion about your product, your business, your strategy, or your execution method. But it's at the same time being open to listening to different things people say, because you never know what good nugget you will get there to help you execute your business better.
Thank you, Sonu. Thank you, Sonu. So people's opinions about your business don't matter as much. I like that. And Elizabeth, last but not least, what advice do you have for someone who's just started a business?
Just be careful who you surround yourself with, because it's a very lonely thing starting a business, and you tend to be surrounded by your family and friends. And it's much easier if your family and friends are going, that's great, crack on, you're doing a great job. I had a friend who started a business and his mother and his stepfather were just in abject horror. They were like, can't you get a proper job? Why don't you go back to your nice proper job? And it was very undermining. But how do you keep your resilience up and your confidence up if you've constantly got people saying to you, what if you can't pay your mortgage? What if you get into debt? You need those people out of your life. You have no space for people like that. See them for a cup of tea occasionally, or just never speak to them again. But you just keep all that negativity away. You have to keep yourself propped up, focused and positive all the time. And it doesn't help if you've got negative ninnies around you.
I love that. Be unapologetic about who you let into your space. And just before we round up, I guess my top tip would be fall in love with the problem, because the solution will always change. I think all of us will have some form of experience where we've had to alter, pivot, change something, but ultimately the thing that makes us have fun and feels passionate is we still love the problem so much. So yeah, always fall in love with your problem, because the solution will always change, and be okay with detaching from certain things that you thought were going to work. It's okay to accept it's not that much of a good idea. Let's find a new one. And I think that is amazing. I cannot thank you all enough for joining us today. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, Angela, and Sonu. I wish I could take you everywhere. I feel like I need you on my board. You guys are amazing. And I think for anyone watching, I don't know about you, but I feel so much more confident with sharing my failure stories and talking about the F word in a much better way. This is the 10th episode of our Women in Innovation series, Let's Talk. I am Meg Zinat-Wamithi. I've been so excited to host this, and I'm going to be passing it back on to Siwan. And yeah, ladies, just a round of applause, because there was so much gems. If you missed this live, it's still on YouTube, and you can kind of head back and watch that back, and it will be up on the channel for you guys to watch. But thank you all so much for giving your time and for your gems. They were amazing.
Well, thank you so much for hosting today's webinar, Meg, and to our fantastic panelists. We had Elizabeth, Angela, and Sonu sharing their thoughts and experiences on failure with us, as well as Meg's insights into it as well. I also would like to thank everybody that's joined us online today. We've had some amazing comments online, and I've been keeping tabs on everything there. Our next Let's Talk About webinar is taking place on the 14th of July, where we'll be joined by Emily Knott from Innovate UK and some more fantastic panelists to talk about making it global. I also want to announce that the briefing event for the next Women in Innovation Awards is now open for registrations. It will be held on the 24th of August, and we'll be talking through the eligibility criteria and application process. And you'll have a chance to ask questions and seek clarification from Innovate UK. KTN will also be announcing what support you can receive during the application process. So that's one not to be missed if you are looking to apply for the next Women in Innovation Awards, which offers £50,000 grant funding and a 12-month package of tailored support for the winners. We hope that you can join us at the briefing event or at the next Let's Talk About webinar. If you'd like to keep up to date with any of the Women in Innovation news, events, or any other activities, please do sign up for our newsletter or visit our program page. Every now and again, we have exclusive offers for our subscribers, so it is one that we do hope that you will sign up for, or you can join the LinkedIn group. Once again, I'd like to express a massive thank you to Meg for hosting the wonderful session today, and for our panelists for being so open and honest on the subject of failure, and to all of our delegates for joining us today. So I hope to see you all again next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.